Hi guys, my name is Pastor Eric and I'm so excited to be joining you for another Surge Kids volunteer training video. I want to remind you at the beginning of this video to just go ahead and pause it. In the description below, I have notes for you. In the notes, we've got fill in the blanks. It'll just help you stay organized with all the information that we're going to provide for you today. The title of this lesson, of this volunteer training for you, is called No More Lone Rangers. Now, this lesson, it was really long, and so I decided to cut it up into two parts. This month, we're going to focus on why we can't do ministry alone, and the second part, we're going to focus on keys to recruiting and building our own kids ministry teams. Now, when I was young in ministry, I did everything alone, and I had this mindset that I was the best, and because I was the best, I could work the fastest. And it was just this mindset that I had. And I struggled to trust people. I struggled to give people responsibility in ministry. So I kind of did every segment. If you looked at my order of service, it said Eric, Jessica. Maybe Jessica did one segment. But early on, I did everything. And let me just tell you what, my ministry did not grow because I was doing everything. If there was a problem, I couldn't go see it because I was needed in the service. And I got caught up in doing ministry. I want to encourage you today. We are not called to do ministry. We are called to lead ministry. And as volunteers of Surge Kids and as leaders of Surge Kids especially, I want us leading ministry. Of course, there's times where I teach the Bible story. Of course, there's going to be times when I'm on stage with the call to action. But my prayer for you guys, it's very, very important. My first point, my prayer is that each one of us should strive to do the work of ministry with a remarkable team of believers working alongside us to accomplish our goals with excellence. You see, a long time ago, I made the decision that I never wanted to do ministry alone. When I make a visit into someone's house, I always bring someone. When I'm speaking at a conference, I always bring someone along. If I'm visiting a child in the hospital, I try to bring someone. Every chance I get, I want to add to the ministry team that God has called me to lead. I believe that children are amazing, and the opportunity to minister to children is one of the highest honors and pleasures anyone can experience. But if I'm real with you guys and if I'm honest, it's also one of the most challenging things we could ever do. So why in the world would anyone want to take the solo route? Why do we try and be lone rangers in children's ministry? And I looked at this question, why do we go it alone? And I looked at my own life, and I also began to talk to tons of kids ministry leaders and pastors across the country. And I noticed several reasons why we hold tightly onto control and we fail to delegate to our teams. Here are the most common mistakes that I found. Number one, we think we're too busy to recruit and equip a team. This reason is number one on the list. I can't tell you how many times an overlooked kids ministry worker has complained, or maybe someone who's been overworked. There's two sides. There's the overlooked people, but there's also the overworked. And I've heard it before, Pastor Eric, recruiting takes so much work. I don't have time for all of that. I'm too busy doing the work of ministry to stop and ask people to join me. You see, sometimes I hear, well, Pastor Eric, even if I stop and people agree, I have to spend tons of time training these people. It's time that I just don't have. It's so much easier to do it by myself. Now, these people are wrong, and they're pretty foolish. These people don't realize how ludicrous their excuses sound. It reminds me of the story of two men who were assigned to move piles of bricks from one side of the brickyard to the other side. For those of you who don't know, my grandfather, he was a bricklayer. So this story kind of means something to me. But there were two piles of bricks, and they were exactly the same size. And in each stack of bricks, there were 5,000 bricks. And the first man, he had this mindset that I'm gonna get it done. And he started carrying the bricks. And he found that he could carry about 10 bricks at a time. Now he looked over at the other man and he noticed that that man was walking away. And he said, "Hey, where are you going? We have all these bricks that we have to move." And the other man yelled back, "I'm gonna go get some help." And the first man thought that guy was foolish. He wondered, why in the world is he wasting his time trying to go and find someone to help him? We have 5,000 bricks that we have to move. In the same time that he's going around looking for all these people to help, he could probably move 1,000 bricks. That guy's crazy. Well, 20 minutes later, the second man came back and he had 5 friends. And all 6 of them began to carry bricks while the first man was still slugging it out all on his own. In very little time, the second man's bricks, all 5,000 of them, were completely moved. The first man, he was staring at this huge pile that he still needed to carry away. Now let me ask you, which man was the foolish man? The second man, he spent valuable time off the job recruiting helpers, but his efforts paid off. The first man was fiercely determined and he never quit, but he wasn't smart. By the time he was finished, he was exhausted, and it took him far longer than the 6 men were required to move that giant pile of bricks. If this is your excuse, stop telling yourself that you're too busy to build a team. Yes, it takes time and it takes efforts, but the rewards are worth it. Number 2, I think sometimes we're afraid to ask. Many people in kids ministry who are lone rangers, they're afraid to ask people to join the team. Now, it takes guts to step up and to ask someone to be a part of their ministry team. They might say no. They might ask hard questions. They might require more attention than we want to give them. If I could just pause right here. Don't be afraid to ask. Something that I read in one of my favorite books is never be afraid to ask a parent or another person to join into our spiritual teaching of our children. It's so important. There is a life on the line, and it's literally heaven or hell for our children. And so, guys, this matters. Don't be afraid. God is with you. Number 3, I think sometimes our egos get in the way. Let's be painfully honest. One of the main reasons why kids ministry leaders insist on doing everything all by themselves is that their egos won't simply let them share the spotlight with others. They enjoy the thrill of being on stage. And I know that I've felt that adrenaline rush from being the man or that moment where I'm indispensable. I'm Pastor Eric. Everyone is watching me. This can't be you. Now, I would have denied it before, but let me just say, I've been in that moment where if I could just be honest, I've been prideful. I haven't let God look at my heart and my motives. This is a moment where I want you to ask yourself the hard questions, and I want you to let God's Spirit reveal in your heart your hidden desires. Is your ego keeping you from building your team? And if I'm honest, for me, it was. There was moments in my life where my ego got in the way. There were moments where I was just so focused on getting the attention of being on stage, I didn't want to share that, and I was missing out. My ministry was suffering for it. Number 4, we're convinced nobody can do it as well as we can. Now, don't get me wrong, excellence is important, but if we make a strategic mistake when we conclude that we're the only ones who can do things the right way, that we're the only ones who can really do things when things need to be done, let me just say that's wrong. I want to say that sometimes we forget that we've made plenty of mistakes when we've started out. Someone let us go through those moments where we learned. Someone let us have an opportunity to grow our skills and our insights. I want to encourage you. Maybe we need to be gracious to the people around us. A big part of excellence in leadership is being devoted to the process of building a great team. If we insist on doing everything ourselves, we devalue the people who are dedicated to our mission. It's silly and it's destructive, and we'll never have people on our team who can do things as well as we can until we let them try. Number 5, we think it's just faster if I do it myself. Now, this assumption is true if there is a very limited vision with a very limited set of activities. Like, after all, I prefer to brush my own teeth instead of delegating that to my kids. I don't have Max and Matthew in there brushing my teeth because I just don't have time. But as a ministry grows and becomes more complex, we will stunt the growth of our ministry if we insist on doing it all on our own. Certainly, it takes time to train people to do a job effectively. But when we train people and we duplicate ourselves, we will be far more accomplished and lives will be changed. We need to look at the long-term benefits of investing some time in equipping people to serve effectively. So let me just pause here in the video. Do you guys recognize with any of those excuses? Have you guys ever used them? And if I'm honest, I've heard you say that before. Maybe you have a whole different set of reasons why you don't spend time building a team for ministry. Here at Christian Life Center, at the church that I serve at, our core values, we have a standard that we want all our ministries to adhere to. And one of our core values is, we is greater than me. Now let me share some reasons why I believe that. Why is everything better in teams? Well, number one, teams are a lot more fun. When I tried to be a Lone Ranger, I felt stressed, and the people around me didn't feel valued. They were eager to help, but my insistence on being totally in control created confusion. As I began to equip them and trust them, my team thrived, and we had a blast together. I love when our teams become family. Number two, teams help us avoid burnout. Now, countless leaders have experienced meltdowns and even burnout. All of us have limits, and none of us are superheroes. If we don't learn how to resolve stress, it'll take a big effect on our ministry, and let me tell you what, it will take its toll. Unresolved stress may show up in headaches, stomach problems, or relational tension. But some of us become driven and demanding, and some become depressed. No matter how talented we may be, and no matter how God has clearly called us, we won't last if we insist on doing all the work all by ourselves. Burnout isn't a mild condition that is easily remedied. It takes months or even years to recover from that. I don't want that to happen to you, and neither does God. Number three, teams make room for growth. If we insist on being a Lone Ranger and refuse to build a team, our foolish choice will limit the potential of our ministry. Even those who are the most talented and driven can only accomplish a small amount of work on their own. The size and the effectiveness of your ministry doesn't just depend on one person, it depends on the number of committed, passionate, and effective leaders that we involve. You see, we're going to accomplish far more for God and His kingdom if we learn how to recruit and how to train and how to delegate to the wonderful people who want to join us in kids ministry. When we insist on being the center of attention and a Lone Ranger, we have decided that stroking our own ego is really more important than reaching as many children as possible for God's kingdom. I don't want to stand before God and tell Him, God, I could have done more, but I didn't want to share the spotlight. God, I could have done more for your kingdom and I could have reached more children, but I didn't want to build a bigger team. Number four, teams allow others to use their God-given gifts and talents. You see, men and women who have been gifted and called by God to join us in working with kids are all around us. When we demand to do it ourselves, we deprive them of the joy and fulfillment for their God-given potential. Number five, teams prepare the ministry for the future. When we build a team and pour into them and multiply ourselves, we prepare the ministry for the future. I believe that God is going to send us more, that our ministry is going to grow, and we have to be thinking about the future. Number six, teams help us minister to all kinds of kids. Some kids can connect with you and your personality, but maybe some won't. A team that consists of people from various backgrounds with different personalities allows your ministry to connect with a wide variety of kids. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pause right here in our video, and we're gonna save the second half of this training for next month. I wanna encourage you, don't limit yourself. God, in this moment, I hope that He's speaking to you, that you say, now is a time where I get serious about building my own kids ministry team. Now is the time where I'm gonna get serious in saying, God, I wanna help build a team. I want Surge Kids to grow, and I know that is only dependent on the number of volunteers and the number of leaders we have. Maybe you're watching this video today and you've been disconnected. Maybe you've just been watching online, or you haven't been coming as consistently as you should. I want this to be a moment where you say, I want to get involved again. I want to be committed to my team. I want to thank each and every single one of you who have said, Pastor Eric, I'm faithful. I am there for you in this season, and I will be there on Sunday morning ready to minister to our children. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope this was impactful. If you like this, I want you to maybe like the video or comment on it, but please share it out with your team. Share it out with the people that you serve with. I want to remind you guys that I love you, God loves you. Thank you for making a big impact for the lives of the children here at Christian Life Center. Bye, guys.